Most homeowners think of their mortgage renewal in one way. Here's the offer, these are the rates, pick one and then move on. But that's not actually what your renewal is. And if you know how to use it, a renewal can actually be leverage. So today, I want to show you what options you actually have if you're coming up for renewal, even if your bank never mentions them. Right now, it's no surprise that a lot of homeowners feel very trapped or boxed in by their mortgage with their renewal coming up, because what happened was a large group of people bought at very, very low interest rates around 2021. And now, 5 years later, they're renewing into interest rates that are, in many cases, almost double what they originally signed on that first mortgage. So we're going to focus on the options that you have and that your bank just won't mention. A quick reminder, if you do want to talk about your personal situation, go over the options or the scenarios that you have, or you just want a second opinion, you can send me an email or in the link below. You can actually click that link and book a call in my calendar. Renewing your mortgage is annoying. It's overwhelming. And what makes it worse is all the stuff we see in the news, on social media about political uncertainty, trade stuff with China and the US, how that affects inflation or Bank of Canada decisions here, and then how all that is tied back to the interest rate that we pay for housing. So there's a lot going on, and we don't want to mess this up. We don't want to fuck it up because right now it feels like there's less room to make that mistake. You know, I'd say most people who are renewing feel a certain way because their lives don't revolve around mortgages. They don't revolve around lenders or interest rates. Their work is elsewhere. They have a family, they have hobbies, so they're busy doing other things. So they don't really know what options they have. And it's important to note that when your lender does send you that renewal letter or tells you to come into the bank to have a conversation, they are focused on one thing, and that is getting you to sign their renewal offer. So in many cases, it can feel very formal, very official, where it's basically an option of take it or leave it. And if you find yourself in that situation, just remember that that renewal offer or them asking you to come in is an invite to have a conversation about your mortgage renewal, right? So today, this video is going to help you prepare for that conversation and share 3 real examples of options that you've got. Okay, the first one, we're going to start with a very common option, but this is early renewal. This just means that you're renewing your mortgage with your current lender before your actual renewal date. Sometimes up to 3 to 6 months ahead of time. It's very straightforward. You basically lock in a new rate and a new term early with the same lender. And this is going to make sense for people who value peace of mind, certainty, stability. If you have uncertainty looming over in your mind, then knowing exactly what your payment will be sooner rather than 6 months down the line, that might help you out or ease the stress in your life as you're trying to plan your renewal. But the situation is not for everyone. If your life situation is going to change soon, as an example, if you're going to move or if your finances are changing, waiting closer to your renewal date might actually make more sense. The key here is not trying to guess or estimate where rates are headed in the next 6 months. It's really about what fits for your life now. Every single mortgage situation is different. So what you can do is check with your lender if they have any fees associated with this, but it's typically a very minimal hassle process to give you some stability. The second option is switching or transferring your mortgage to a different lender. And I've found that there's this idea that people have that you're tied to your lender until the day your mortgage is either cleared off or at your renewal, which isn't exactly true. And if you wanted, you could explore options earlier. And the way it would work is the very first thing you want to understand is your penalty, right? Because that would factor into budgeting, any scenario planning to basically outweigh the benefit versus the cost. There are really 2 categories of mortgages. With a variable rate mortgage, the penalty is quite straightforward as it's often just 3 months of interest. Whereas with a fixed rate mortgage, penalties can be much bigger because they're based on how rates have changed since you first signed that mortgage agreement. We're going to go over a quick example, but let's say that you have a fixed rate mortgage at 5.5%, and today you could qualify for something like 4.5%. At first glance, it looks like it would make a lot of sense. But if your penalty to break your mortgage is going to cost you $25,000 and the interest savings over the remaining term is only $15,000, well, then you'd be signing up to just screw yourself. And on the other side, I've also seen situations where the penalty was closer to $6,000, but the interest savings were around $15,000, plus that homeowner was able to improve their monthly cash flow and consolidate higher interest debt to help them out. Basically, if the penalty costs more than the savings that you're going to get from a lower rate, switching is not going to make sense for you. If the savings clearly outweigh the penalty though, then I'd say it's worth looking into. And I'm not here to say that one lender is better or worse than another. It's making sure that you find what aligns with what you need right now. Maybe another lender is going to offer a different length of a term or different features that can help out your month-to-month cash flow. And the third option here is one that isn't really talked about, but it's called blending and extending your rate. And we're also going to talk about refinancing. But instead of just jumping from your old rate to today's higher rate, your lender actually might allow you to blend the two rates together. So your current rate with the new rate, and basically just extend your term. Your lender averages the rate you still have time left on with the rate you're moving into today. Obviously, that blended rate lands somewhere between the two. Then all they do is extend you into a new term starting right now, instead of waiting 3 to 6 months for your renewal. You usually avoid paying the penalty. You do stay with the same lender, and you land at a rate that is lower than today's posted rates, but higher than what you originally had. It's not going to be your cheapest option on paper, but for a lot of people who bought in 2021, it's probably one of the least painful ways to transition during this renewal process. Your lender might allow this for really two reasons, but basically they get to keep you as a client instead of losing you to someone else, and they get to lock you into a new extension of a term at today's rates rather than waiting 3 to 6 months for your renewal. It's kind of like a retention tool for them. Now, with refinancing, this is much more of a structural move. This is when you basically fully reset your mortgage. You might stretch your amortization to lower your payments, consolidate some high interest debt, or use your home's equity to improve cash flow. This can obviously give you some breathing room, but it usually means that you do have to qualify again and you potentially have to pay a penalty. So if you're going to do it, it needs to be done very intentionally. A lot of people think that their only choices are accepting a massive payment jump or breaking your mortgage and taking on a huge penalty, but the blend and extend or the refinance option kind of provide a happy medium and sit between those two extremes. So to wrap this video up, you do not need to rush into your renewal and you don't need to decide your options alone. Really, there are 3 great options: 1, an early renewal; 2, switching lenders; and 3, blending and extending the rate or a refinance. These are all tangible ways forward that are tailored to basically reduce the pressure that you're feeling in this renewal situation. And if you do want to talk about your situation, go over your options, go ahead and book a call with me in my calendar or send me an email. As always, I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you in the next video.